I know you're here because something inside you is searching for answers. Maybe you've been feeling lost, like you're walking through a fog that won't lift. Perhaps you've asked yourself why things keep happening the way they do, why certain patterns repeat, why you can't seem to break free from cycles that drain your energy and steal your peace. I want you to know that you clicking on this video right now is not a coincidence. Nothing in your life is a coincidence. The universe has been trying to reach you, and today you're finally ready to listen. Stay with me until the very end, because what I'm about to share will shift something fundamental in how you see your struggles, your pain, and most importantly, your purpose. Before we dive deep into this journey together, I need your help. Let's create something powerful as a community. I want us to reach 100 comments on this video, and I want you to stay until the final word. Can we do that together? Your engagement tells the universe and this platform that this message needs to reach more people who are searching, just like you were. So subscribe to this channel right now, because those who subscribe and watch until the end are remembered first by the algorithm. You'll be the first to receive the next message the universe wants to deliver through these stories. If you want the universe to keep helping you, all it asks is that you leave one motivational comment below. Just one. Share what resonated with you, what you're working through, or simply your truth in this moment. Those who watch completely are prioritized, and we need to hit this goal to continue bringing you more inspiring stories like this one. Let me tell you about Marcus. He was 34 years old when his entire world collapsed in a single week. First, he lost his job at a marketing firm where he'd worked for nearly a decade. The company was downsizing, they said. Budget cuts, they explained. Nothing personal. But to Marcus, it felt deeply personal. It felt like a verdict on his worth, his contribution, his very identity. He had poured his soul into that job, stayed late countless nights, sacrificed weekends and holidays, believing that dedication would guarantee security. 3 days after receiving that devastating news, his girlfriend of 6 years told him she needed space. She said they'd grown apart, that she needed to find herself, that the relationship had become more comfortable than passionate. Marcus felt the ground disappear beneath his feet. Everything he thought was solid turned to smoke in his hands. He sat alone in his apartment that Friday night, surrounded by half-packed boxes from a job he'd already been forced to clear out, staring at his phone, hoping for a message that wouldn't come. The silence was deafening. The emptiness was suffocating. And in that darkness, Marcus asked the question that perhaps you've asked yourself during your own dark nights. Why is this happening to me? What did I do to deserve this? Why does the universe seem to be punishing me? These questions echoed through his mind as he struggled to sleep, as he forced himself to eat, as he mechanically went through the motions of each day that followed. He felt abandoned by life itself, as if some cosmic force had decided he wasn't worthy of happiness, stability, or love. But here's what Marcus didn't understand yet, what perhaps you're still learning to understand. The universe wasn't punishing him. It was redirecting him. It was clearing space. It was removing everything that was keeping him small, safe, and stuck so that he could finally step into the life he was actually meant to live. You see, Marcus had been comfortable in his misery. He didn't love his job, but it was familiar. He didn't feel truly seen in his relationship, but it was easier than being alone. He had built a life that looked acceptable from the outside, while his soul was slowly starving on the inside. And the universe, in its infinite wisdom, knew that Marcus would never choose growth if comfort remained an option. So comfort had to be removed. The first month was brutal. Marcus sent out dozens of resumes and heard nothing back. He scrolled through social media, seeing everyone else's highlight reels while he sat in his darkest chapter. He attended a friend's wedding alone and felt the weight of judgment in every sympathetic glance. He checked his bank account daily, watching his savings dwindle, feeling the anxiety tighten around his chest like a vice. There were mornings when getting out of bed felt like an impossible task. There were nights when he wondered if he'd ever feel whole again. But something interesting began to happen in the quiet spaces between the panic and the pain. Marcus started to hear a whisper. At first, it was so faint he almost missed it. But gradually it grew stronger. It was the voice of his own soul, finally able to speak now that all the noise of his former life had been silenced. That whisper, reminded him of the photography hobby he'd abandoned years ago because his job demanded too much time. It reminded him of the creative projects he used to dream about before practical concerns convinced him to play it safe. It reminded him of the person he used to be before he started living according to other people's expectations and society's narrow definitions of success. One afternoon, Marcus picked up his old camera, dusty and forgotten, in the back of his closet. He walked to a nearby park without any plan or purpose, just following an intuition he couldn't quite explain. As he looked through the viewfinder, something shifted. For the first time in months, he felt present. He felt alive. He felt like himself. He started going out with his camera every day, not for anyone else, not for social media validation, not to build a business, but simply because it made him feel connected to something larger than his circumstances. He began documenting the small, overlooked beauty in his city, the way light filtered through autumn leaves, the expressions on strangers' faces as they moved through their days, the textures and colors that most people rushed past without noticing. And as Marcus focused his lens on the world around him, something remarkable happened. He stopped focusing on what he'd lost and started seeing what was emerging. His perspective shifted from scarcity to possibility. He wasn't thinking about the job he didn't have or the relationship that ended. He was fully engaged with the moment in front of him, and in those moments, he felt a peace he'd never experienced during his years of so-called stability. Marcus started posting some of his photographs online, not with any expectation, just as a way to share what he was seeing and feeling. To his surprise, people responded, not just liked or scrolled past, but truly responded. They sent messages telling him that his images made them pause, made them feel something, made them look at their own lives differently. A local coffee shop owner reached out, asking if she could display his work on her walls. A small gallery invited him to participate in a community art show. A non-profit organization hired him to document their programs. None of these opportunities would have been possible in his old life. He wouldn't have had the time, the space, or the courage to pursue them. He would have been too busy climbing a corporate ladder that was leaning against the wrong wall. 6 months after losing everything, Marcus found himself sitting in that same apartment, but the energy was completely different. Yes, his income was less predictable than it had been. Yes, he was still figuring out this new path. Yes, there were still moments of doubt and fear. But there was also something he'd been missing for years, a sense of purpose, a feeling that his life belonged to him again, a recognition that perhaps the universe hadn't been cruel after all. Perhaps it had been compassionate in a way he couldn't understand while he was still clinging to the wreckage of his old life. He realized that sometimes what feels like an ending is actually the universe making space for a beginning. Sometimes what looks like loss is actually liberation. Sometimes the floor has to fall out from under us so we can learn that we've always had wings. Now, I want you to think about your own life right now. What are you going through? What challenge is consuming your thoughts and energy? Maybe it's a relationship that's falling apart despite your best efforts to hold it together. Maybe it's a health crisis that's forced you to confront your mortality and reevaluate your priorities. Maybe it's a financial struggle that's keeping you awake at night, wondering how you'll make it through another month. Maybe it's a deep loneliness that follows you everywhere, even in crowded rooms. Maybe it's a creative block that's making you question your talents and your purpose. Maybe it's a family conflict that's breaking your heart. Maybe it's grief that won't release its grip on your chest. Whatever it is, I want you to consider this possibility. What if you're going through this for a reason? What if the universe is trying to teach you something essential? What if this struggle is actually a sacred assignment, specifically designed for your growth and evolution? I understand that this perspective can feel frustrating when you're in the middle of suffering. Nobody wants to hear that their pain has a purpose when they're drowning in it. But I'm asking you to take a breath and look at your situation from a wider view, from a higher perspective. What is this challenge forcing you to confront about yourself? What patterns is it revealing? What beliefs is it asking you to examine? What parts of your life is it showing you need to change? The universe speaks through circumstances. It speaks through obstacles. It speaks through the things that make us uncomfortable, because comfort is often the enemy of growth. We don't transform when everything is easy. We don't discover our strength when we're never tested. We don't develop compassion when we've never suffered. We don't find our authentic voice when we're too busy performing for others. Consider the possibility that your current struggle is removing something that was blocking your path, even if you can't see that yet. Maybe it's removing your attachment to how you thought your life should look, so you can discover how it's actually meant to unfold. Maybe it's removing toxic people who were draining your energy while convincing yourself you owed them your loyalty. Maybe it's removing false beliefs about your worthiness that you inherited from wounded people who didn't know any better. Maybe it's removing the mask you've been wearing for so long that you forgot what your real face looks like underneath. Maybe it's removing the safety of the familiar, so you're finally uncomfortable enough to take the risks your soul has been urging you to take for years. Let me share something that might shift your perspective even more. There's a concept in metallurgy called tempering. When metal is forged, it's heated to extreme temperatures and then cooled rapidly. This process makes it incredibly strong. Without the heat, without the stress, the metal remains soft and brittle. It can't hold an edge. It can't bear weight. It can't fulfill its purpose. The fire isn't punishment, the fire is preparation. Your struggles are tempering you. They're making you stronger in places you didn't even know were weak. They're revealing capacities you didn't know you possessed. They're teaching you lessons that no amount of ease could ever teach. Think about the people you admire most in this world, the ones whose wisdom you seek, whose strength inspires you, whose compassion moves you. I guarantee that none of them arrived at that depth without first traveling through their own darkness. Their light is so bright precisely because they've known such profound darkness. Their wisdom is so valuable precisely because it was earned through their own confusion and mistakes. Their compassion is so genuine precisely because they've experienced their own suffering. You cannot become who you're meant to be without going through what you're going through. This is your metamorphosis. And yes, metamorphosis is uncomfortable. The caterpillar doesn't dissolve into liquid inside the cocoon and think, this is pleasant. The caterpillar has no idea it's becoming a butterfly. It only knows that everything familiar is disappearing. So, what do you do with this understanding? How do you actually move through your struggle with grace instead of just surviving it with gritted teeth? First, stop resisting. I know that sounds counterintuitive. When something hurts, our instinct is to fight it, to push against it, to demand that it change immediately. But resistance actually amplifies suffering. It's the difference between getting caught in a current and exhausting yourself swimming against it versus allowing the current to carry you while you conserve your energy and look for the right moment to swim toward shore. Acceptance doesn't mean approval. It doesn't mean you're happy about your circumstances. It means you stop pretending that reality is different than it actually is right now. You stop arguing with what is. You stop wasting your precious energy on denial. You say, okay, this is what's happening. I don't like it, but I'm not going to destroy myself resisting it. What do I need to learn here? How do I need to grow? What is trying to emerge through this experience? Second, get quiet enough to hear the message. Your current struggle is a teacher, but you'll miss the lesson if you're drowning it out with distractions. We live in a culture that encourages us to numb our discomfort with endless scrolling, shopping, eating, drinking, or staying so busy that we never have to sit with our own thoughts. But the universe can't reach you through the noise. You have to create space for stillness. You have to be willing to sit with the discomfort without immediately trying to fix it or escape it. Meditation doesn't have to be complicated. It can be as simple as sitting quietly for 10 minutes each morning, focusing on your breath, and asking, what am I supposed to understand right now? What is this situation trying to show me? Then listen. Not with your analytical mind that wants to solve problems and control outcomes, but with your intuition, that deeper knowing that speaks in whispers and feelings rather than words and logic. Third, look for the gifts hiding in the wreckage. This requires a willingness to shift from victim consciousness to student consciousness. A victim asks, why is this happening to me? A student asks, what is this teaching me? Both questions are understandable, but they lead to very different destinations. One keeps you stuck in resentment and powerlessness. The other opens a path toward wisdom and agency. What strength have you discovered in yourself since this challenge began? What have you learned about your own resilience? What relationships have deepened because of what you're going through? What superficial connections have fallen away to reveal who your true people are? What has this forced you to prioritize that you were neglecting before? What clarity has emerged from the chaos? Fourth, trust the timing. We live in a world of instant gratification. We want our pain to resolve immediately. We want our questions answered now. We want the outcome to match our timeline. But the universe operates on a different schedule, one that prioritizes your ultimate good over your immediate comfort. Sometimes the blessing you're asking for isn't ready yet because you aren't ready yet. Sometimes the door needs to stay closed a little longer because you still have more to learn where you are. Sometimes the waiting is part of the transformation. You're being prepared for what you've been praying for. You're developing the capacity to handle what you've been asking to receive. You're becoming the person who can sustain the next level of your life. Let me tell you about Sarah. She spent 3 years trying to get pregnant. 3 years of hope and disappointment cycling every single month. 3 years of watching friends announce their pregnancies while her arms remained empty. 3 years of medical appointments and invasive procedures and well-meaning advice that only deepened her grief. She asked the universe why. She begged for understanding. She wondered what she'd done wrong to be denied this fundamental desire. She felt punished, forgotten, overlooked. During that time, Sarah was working in a high-stress corporate environment that demanded 70-hour weeks. Her marriage was strained under the weight of their shared disappointment and the distance that grief can create between two people who love each other but can't fix each other's pain. Her health was deteriorating from the chronic stress and the hormonal treatments and the emotional toll of repeated loss. Then one day, everything shifted. Sarah's company went through restructuring and her position was eliminated. Instead of fighting to stay in a career that was consuming her, she took the severance package and decided to finally pursue the holistic health coaching certification she'd been dreaming about for years. As she studied and trained, as she learned about the profound connection between stress and fertility, between nervous system regulation and reproductive health, between emotional trauma and physical manifestation, something clicked. She realized that her body had been trying to protect her. It had been saying, not yet, not under these conditions, not while you're depleting yourself, not while you're disconnected from your own needs and rhythms. She started applying everything she was learning to her own life. She completely transformed her relationship with stress, with rest, with nourishment, with her body, with her husband, with herself. 4 months after leaving her corporate job, Sarah discovered she was pregnant. But more than that, she was ready. She was present. She was grounded. She was healthy in ways that had nothing to do with her physical symptoms and everything to do with her entire being. That pregnancy had been waiting for this version of Sarah, this woman who had learned to listen to her body instead of overriding it. This woman who had learned that worthiness isn't earned through exhaustion. This woman who had discovered that sometimes the universe says not yet because it loves us too much to give us what we want before we're truly ready to receive it. Now Sarah works with women facing similar struggles, and she tells them what I'm telling you. Your waiting is not wasted. Your delay is not denial. Your struggle is not evidence that you're being punished. It's evidence that you're being prepared. Financially, many of you are struggling right now. You're looking at your bank account and feeling panic rise in your chest. You're receiving bills you don't know how you'll pay. You're working hard but feeling like you're falling further behind instead of getting ahead. You're watching other people succeed and wondering what they have that you're missing. Here's what the universe wants you to understand about money. Your worth is not determined by your bank balance. Your value as a human being has nothing to do with your income. The universe is infinitely abundant, and scarcity is a mindset, not a reality. But that mindset is powerful, and it can create exactly what it expects. If you're constantly focused on what you don't have, you energetically push away what you need. If you're operating from fear and desperation, you make decisions from that frequency and attract circumstances that match it. The universe is asking you to shift your relationship with money from one of fear to one of trust. That doesn't mean ignoring practical reality or pretending everything is fine when it's not. It means making decisions from a place of possibility instead of panic. It means looking for solutions instead of staying stuck in the problem. It means asking yourself, what value can I create? What service can I provide? What skills do I have that could serve others? Instead of asking, why isn't money coming to me? money flows toward value. Money follows energy. Money responds to action taken from a place of clarity and purpose rather than desperation and grasping. Start where you are. Use what you have. Create something. Offer something. Serve someone. The universe rewards movement. It rewards courage. It rewards the person who takes one step forward in faith, even when they can't see the entire staircase. In your relationships, whether romantic or otherwise, the universe is showing you where you've been settling, where you've been tolerating disrespect because you were afraid of being alone, where you've been shrinking yourself to make someone else comfortable, where you've been giving endlessly while receiving nothing in return and calling that love, where you've been holding on to someone who clearly doesn't want to be held. The pain you're feeling in your relationships right now is not punishment, it's information. It's your soul saying, this doesn't match who you're becoming. This doesn't honor who you truly are. This isn't sustainable or healthy or aligned with your growth. And sometimes the most loving thing the universe can do is remove someone from your life or create enough discomfort that you finally remove yourself. If you're going through a breakup or a betrayal or a friendship that's dissolving, try to see it this way. You're being freed. Space is being created for people who can actually meet you where you are. Energy is being returned to you that was being drained by connections that weren't reciprocal. You're being given the opportunity to learn how to be whole on your own, instead of dependent on someone else for your sense of worth and completeness. The right people for this next chapter of your life can't enter until you release your grip on the wrong people from the last chapter. And yes, that release is painful. Yes, that grief is real. Honor it, feel it. Don't rush through it. But don't set up permanent residence in it either. Don't let the pain convince you that you'll never love or be loved again. Don't let one person's inability to see your value make you question whether you have any. Their blindness is not evidence of your invisibility. Spiritually, what you're going through is an awakening, even if it doesn't feel spiritual, even if it feels like you're being broken rather than opened. The universe is stripping away your illusions. It's dissolving your attachment to outcomes you can't control. It's teaching you that you are not your circumstances, your achievements, your relationships, your possessions, or your reputation. You are the awareness beneath all of those temporary forms. You are the consciousness that observes the thoughts, not the thoughts themselves. You are the space in which experience happens, not the experience itself. And that part of you, that essence, cannot be diminished by anything that's happening to you right now. It can only be revealed more clearly. Your pain is burning away everything false, everything that was never really you to begin with. All the conditioning you absorbed from a culture that told you what success should look like, what happiness should feel like, what a good life should contain. All the expectations that were placed on you by people who were living from their own fears and limitations. All the stories you told yourself about who you're supposed to be and what you're supposed to achieve by a certain age. All of that is crumbling. And yes, it's terrifying because it felt like your identity, but your identity was too small. Your self-concept was too limited. You were trying to live a tiny, manageable, controllable life when your soul came here for expansion, for depth, for the full spectrum of human experience. The universe is asking you to trust, fall into the unknown, to release your white-knuckled grip on certainty, to stop demanding guarantees before you take your next step, to understand that the path reveals itself as you walk it, not before. To know that you are being guided even when you can't see where you're going. To remember that every single time in your past, when you thought you couldn't survive something, you did. You're still here. You're still breathing. You're still capable of growth and change and healing and hope. The fact that you're watching this video right now, that something in you was drawn to this message, is evidence that you haven't given up. Some part of you still believes that your story isn't over, that this chapter of struggle is not the end of the book, that breakthrough is possible even when it's not yet visible. So what is the universe trying to tell you through your current circumstances? It's saying you are stronger than you know. You are more resilient than you've given yourself credit for. You are capable of transforming your pain into purpose, your mess into a message, your wounds into wisdom. You are not a victim of your circumstances. You are a student of life, and every experience, pleasant or painful, is curriculum. It's saying, let go of what's already gone. Stop trying to resurrect what has died. Stop watering dead plants. Stop investing your energy in people, situations, and versions of yourself that no longer exist. Grieve what needs to be grieved. Then turn your face toward what's emerging. It's saying, this ending is making space for a beginning. This loss is making room for gain. This darkness is the fertile soil from which your next chapter will grow. Trust the process even when you can't see the outcome. The universe is asking you to be patient with yourself, to speak to yourself with the same compassion you'd offer a dear friend going through what you're going through. To recognize that healing is not linear, that growth spirals rather than progresses in a straight line, that some days you'll feel strong and clear, and some days you'll feel like you've regressed. Both are part of the journey. The universe is reminding you that you don't have to have it all figured out right now. You don't have to know exactly where you're going or how you'll get there. You just have to take the next right step, then the next one after that. One breath, one choice, one moment at a time. The universe is inviting you to find meaning in your struggle instead of just enduring it. To ask yourself, how am I different because of what I've been through? What have I learned about myself, about others, about life? What matters to me now that didn't matter before? What used to matter that I now realize was never important at all? How has my perspective shifted? What do I value more deeply? What am I no longer willing to tolerate? Your struggle is your story, but it's not your entire story. It's one chapter in a much larger narrative that's still being written. And the most powerful stories, the ones that inspire and transform others, are not the ones where everything was easy. They're the ones where someone faced impossible odds and kept going, where someone fell apart completely and found a way to reassemble themselves into someone new, where someone lost everything and discovered that they already had everything they truly needed within themselves all along. That's the story the universe is writing with your life right now. You can't see it yet because you're still in the middle of it. But one day, perhaps sooner than you think, you'll look back on this time and understand. You'll see the connections you couldn't see while you were living it. You'll recognize the protection in what felt like rejection. You'll appreciate the redirection in what felt like failure. You'll understand that the universe was never against you. It was always, always for you. It was orchestrating circumstances for your highest good, even when your limited perspective could only see suffering. So tonight, or tomorrow morning, whenever you're struggling and doubting and feeling like you can't go on, I want you to remember this. You are going through this for a reason. The universe wants you to understand something essential about yourself, about life, about what you're truly capable of becoming. Your pain has purpose. Your struggle has meaning. Your story matters. And you are exactly where you need to be, learning exactly what you need to learn, becoming exactly who you need to become. Trust that. Trust yourself. Trust the process. Trust that even in this darkness, you are being held by something far greater than your understanding. Something that sees your entire path when you can only see the single step in front of you. Something that has always guided you and will continue guiding you home to yourself. And if you want, tell me from which corner of the world you are watching this video. Your comment matters and I want to read it and respond to you. For more exciting stories like this, click on the video that appears on your screen right now.